Yeah, I loved looking at the scoundrels of Scripture. I did a chapter on the two criminals who died alongside Jesus, and Barabbas, who I think is a fascinating character.
So talk to us about those.
Yeah, so Barabbas, he's the first person who could say, Jesus died in my place.
Yeah, he is.
Now, aren't we glad he wasn't the last?
Yeah.
And, of course, we don't know what happened to him. But I just have to wonder, he knows that cross had been prepared for him. And he probably knew those two other criminals. They were probably a band of three and a part of a larger band. But did he make his way to Calvary and see Jesus there? And did he recognize that Jesus had died in his place? Did he see the way that Jesus died, the way that centurion did? And did it do a work of grace in his heart? We don't really know. We know there was one thief there who ridiculed and died hard-hearted with no hope for eternity. But aren't we glad, aren't we grateful for this story of this other thief? And I would have to call, I think they were really like terrorists. They stole to fund their terrorism against the rule of Rome. That's why they're being crucified. And but he's there, and he looks to Jesus, and somehow, this has to be a work of grace. Somehow he knows that Jesus is a king with a kingdom. Why would he think that in that moment? It looks like he's been crushed by the true kingdom, by the kingdom of Rome. But instead, he asks Jesus, will you give me a place there? Could I get in on that? And Jesus says, today you will be with me in paradise. And the story of that scoundrel, I think, is really important for us because one very important thing it shows us, if we are ever tempted to think that it's going to be up to accumulating some good works to get in on God's graces and to be able to enter into his presence, he had no time for that. There was only time for one, and I'll put it in air quotes, work. And that was to put all of his hopes, place all of his hopes for his life and in his death on Jesus. And it was enough. So that his name is written in the Lamb's Book of Life. And he was that day and continues to be in the presence of Christ. That's really good news.
Yeah, I think that moment just decimates any thought of worthiness that somehow, some way, I brought something that makes me acceptable, because there's none of that in the man. It's absolutely impossible. Mm-hmm. This is, in human terms, a horrible person, horrible track record, but he places his hope in Jesus.